I mean, what kind of name is that for a man? Sounds like a girl's name. Paulie, Paulie. I ain't worried about him. I don't think he knows nothing about football. I'm the man. Fans, everybody likes a good fight, and I think even though we will have a couple of pansies we're going against Big Cat and Paulie, so I think they should come out and see it.
The most feared man in football. That was the name they gave him. And right now, in a league that hands out flags like parking tickets, a player like Lawrence Taylor would not last a full season. The modern NFL has been sanitized, rebuilt with rules designed to stop exactly what he was. Launching is banned, hits below the knee cost you first downs and fines. Quarterbacks are practically untouchable. The gray area where he thrived, that violent, unpredictable space between legal and terrifying, has been wiped off the rulebook completely. But here is the thing. The fact that the sport itself had to be redesigned around one man is the strongest proof of all. If you believe this is the greatest defensive story in football history, give this video some hype right now. You know where the button is. Lawrence Taylor did not just dominate. He broke the game. He forced coaches to invent new positions. He changed how every team in the league built their offense. He elevated the left tackle to the second most important player on the field, all from a linebacker spot. And nobody has come close since. Before 1981, linebackers were technicians of restraint. Their job was simple: read the play, react, fill a gap, cover a zone, wait. That was the job. Then, the Giants drafted Lawrence Taylor with the second overall pick out of North Carolina, and everything changed overnight. He was a physical anomaly. 6'3", 240 pounds, a guided missile. He had the short area burst of a world-class sprinter and the raw power of an interior lineman, packed into the frame of a stand-up linebacker. Nobody had seen that combination before. His debut season hit the league like a freight train. He recorded 133 tackles and 9.5 sacks before sacks were even an official statistic. He defended 8 passes, he forced 2 fumbles, he picked off a pass, sideline to sideline, every single snap. He did not wait to read what the offense was doing. He was already in the backfield before most offensive tackles had finished their first step. That is not a defensive player doing his job. That is one man rewriting the job entirely. The awards confirmed what every coach already knew. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year. He also won Defensive Player of the Year. Same season. He is the only player in NFL history to ever accomplish that. One player, one time. And in that same first year, he dragged the Giants from a franchise that had not seen the playoffs since 1963, all the way back into postseason football. Joe Gibbs was one of the greatest offensive coaches the game has ever produced. He ran one of the most powerful offenses of the entire decade. And when Lawrence Taylor lined up across from him, Gibbs admitted his standard game plan was useless. Taylor required a special game plan built for him alone. Because if he came off the edge with nobody capable of slowing him down, Gibbs said he would effectively kill the quarterback by the second quarter. That is the level of disruption one defender brought to the field. So Gibbs invented a new position from scratch. He took a lesser-used backfield player, moved him to the wing, and gave him one assignment: follow Taylor across the formation. Do not let him run free. That player became known as the H-back, a hybrid of a fullback and a second tight end. Teams across the league copied it. Coaches began using 2 tight ends as their base formation just to have extra bodies on Taylor's side. All of it. Every schematic shift to neutralize one man. The other transformation happened at left tackle. Before Taylor, that was not the premium position it became. That changed fast. He rushed from the right side of the defense, targeting a right-handed quarterback's blind side, the zone behind the passer's back, the area he could not see. He came for Joe Montana. He punished Phil Simms. He forced quarterbacks to burn timeouts just because they did not know where Taylor was lined up before the snap. Coaches stopped preparing for the Giants. They prepared for Taylor. Because if he got loose, nothing else on the field mattered. Then came November 18th, 1985. Monday Night Football, the night the country understood exactly what they had been watching all along. In a sack of Washington Redskins quarterback Joe Theismann, Taylor came off the edge and brought him to the ground. What followed was a compound fracture of Theismann's right leg, career-ending, permanent. One of the most haunting images in the history of televised sport. A moment nobody in that stadium, or watching at home, was ready for. But what happened immediately after says everything about Lawrence Taylor. He stood up and began screaming. He waved his arms frantically toward the sideline, calling for the medical staff, in a state of visible horror. The man the league called an assassin was genuinely shaken. He had built his career on the edge of destruction, but the second it went somewhere he had not intended, he was the first one to break. That was the central paradox of who he was. Ferocious on one side, human on the other. And that night permanently changed how the NFL viewed protecting quarterbacks, helping build the blindside concept that coaches still structure offenses around today. The 1986 season was not an argument, it was proof. In a sport that hands its MVP award to offensive players in almost every era, Lawrence Taylor forced a vote nobody could dispute. Only 2 defensive players in NFL history have ever won the award: Alan Page in 1971 and Lawrence Taylor in 1986. That is the complete list. Every other year goes to offense. Taylor recorded 20.5 sacks that season, leading the entire league and setting a new standard for what a linebacker could produce. That drove the Giants to a 14-2 record and their first ever Super Bowl title. Bill Parcells kept his instructions simple. Go get the ball. That was it. No elaborate scheme, no detailed assignment. Just go. Bill Belichick, the defensive coordinator, often recalled how Taylor would disregard the called play entirely, blitz from a completely different angle, and still come up with the sack. When Parcells questioned the change, Taylor told him to put it in the playbook on Monday, because what he just did was a dandy. He was not running the defense that was drawn up. He was inventing it live, and it worked every single time. Now here is where the story gets honest. Lawrence Taylor lived what can only be called controlled chaos. He battled a cocaine addiction that he spoke about openly later in his autobiography. He admitted using as early as his second season. He would fall asleep in defensive meetings, then wake up and accurately describe the assignment of every player on the field from memory. Standard coaching could not reach him, so Parcells stopped trying standard coaching. The arrangement was simple. If you were going to live the rock star lifestyle, if you were going to miss meetings and ignore the schedule, come up with 3 sacks on Sunday. That was the deal. 3 sacks and the rest was forgiven. In 1988, Taylor played against the New Orleans Saints while wearing a restrictive harness just to keep a torn pectoral muscle from getting worse. He finished that game with 7 tackles, 3 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. The Giants won 13-12. That is controlled chaos in its purest form. Not just talent, something without a proper name that has not walked into an NFL stadium since. Taylor himself said it clearly. If he played today, he would get thrown out. He said he might end a season owing the league money in fines. The modern rulebook bans launching at defenseless players. It protects quarterbacks below the knee. It flags and fines psychological intimidation. Every technique that made him the most feared man in football is now a 15-yard penalty, a 5-figure fine, or grounds for ejection. And beyond the rules, the structure of today's game boxes in that archetype even further. Modern edge rushers rotate to preserve their burst. No team puts its top-paid star on the punt team. Taylor was a 60-minute player. He led the team in tackles while leading the league in sacks. He dropped back in coverage. He gunned down returners on special teams. He played every phase because nobody could slow him down long enough to rest him. The era that created number 56 has been legislated out of existence. The rulebook was rewritten specifically to make sure it never happens again. And that is exactly why there will never be another Lawrence Taylor.